Hello. Welcome back to Empaths Anonymous podcast. I'm Christina.
I'm Danie.
And this week we are going to be talking about work, which is not our normal gig. But
No, not usually. You're right.
I know.
Let's talk about work here.
We don't want to talk about work.
Let's talk about work on here.
We don't work. That's my dream, is to not work. I want to be Sally from Practical Magic and just have an apothecary by the sea. That's my soft life.
Right? She was not one of the witches. Was she?
She was the one that resisted it.
Oh.
And then her mans got killed.
Is that Sandra? Does Sandra play Sally?
Sandra's Sally.
Okay, I thought she worked at the apothecary. Who was that lady who was always in the apothecary with her? Who's that lady?
I don't know. I think just like one of her employees or something.
Okay, it's time to bring it back. It's October.
It is. Anyway, what is in your cup, girl? Girly pop?
In my cup today is a much needed shaken espresso because if you know, shaken espressos come with an extra shot. And I 100% needed that today. The week feels weird. My schedule is a little bit changed. And so just making the best of it and figuring out how to move forward. Today feels like the end of the week already. Mentally, right. I'm like at the end of the week. I woke up today. I'm like, what is it? It's only Tuesday. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I wished that it was Friday. I was like, oh, almost to Friday. I am not. But overall, I'm happy. I think happy is overused,
underrated?
But still underrated.
Like it's a simple answer, so you feel like, oh, I should say something else. But
right.
It's like, I'm just happy.
Yeah, I should say something with more depth or whatever. But yeah, I'm happy. I'm always happy to be on the green velvet couch with my bestie. I'm always happy to speak to people and have really thought-provoking and interesting conversations. And yes, that is me. And what is in your cup?
We got the same damn thing.
Again.
Are we turning into each other?
Absolutely.
Honestly, you are the only person, I mean, besides like my family members, who I've spent so much time with and don't get sick of. Because I feel like, well, I don't think anybody who I've formerly lived with is listening to my podcast, but past roommates, even friends, it's like budget the time.
Okay.
Because it's like not everybody you can spend all the time with, but it's like we live together.
Yeah.
We do the podcast together.
Yeah.
We're obviously friends, so we hang out and do fun things. It's like we spend a lot of time together, and
we've got a VIP matcha membership together.
Oh my God.
We gotta head back.
I was just thinking that today, like we need to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have the same thing in my cup because it is double star day? Triple star day?
It was triple star day.
Triple star day. We got to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
In our little cold cups. Cheers.
Cheers. Sorry, it took me a minute. Brain cells registering.
Yeah, and I am showing up feeling freer in the mind and the medulla. Free your mind. I'm feeling fun and fancy, free. And yeah, it's funny that we're talking about work because I'm looking for work. And I think that can be a very daunting process. And I'm getting no's, which I think a lot of people, I mean, you always get a lot of no's, but like I'm getting no's to the ones I really wanted. And it could be disappointing, but I'm reminding myself that it means that there's a better yes.
Oh, yeah.
At the other end of the rainbow. So
what's meant for you will be for you.
So yeah, showing up fun and fancy free.
Good.
And I'm glad to be saying that because I feel like lately when I've had check-ins, I feel like I'm always a little bit like gloomy. But
and that's fair.
There's shit happening in my life and I'm not going to pretend that I'm upbeat and positive all the time because that's impossible.
It's not true.
It's not true.
It's not true. If you feel like a schlump, you feel like a schlump. And you have to acknowledge those feelings because they don't just go away. You have to listen to your body. You have to listen to your mind. And it's okay that you show up with a cloud over your head like the Peppa.
Who's that?
From Encanto.
Oh.
Peppa, you have a cloud.
Aww.
She's the one who controls the...
I've still not seen.
Okay, yeah. We gotta get into it. Yeah.
She hasn't been in a Encanto phase lately.
No, every once in a while. But I think she's prepping up for Moana too.
Moana 2 and Wish.
Oh, yeah, this girl loves some Wish.
Yeah.
And I did watch a little bit of it the other day, and it's very cute. Yeah. And I think that she has a real problem with the king.
She does.
She has a serious problem with the king.
Every single time she's like, he's not very nice.
He's not very nice. He said he was going to do something, and then he didn't do it. So he is not a nice king. He is a mean king because he kept everyone's wishes. And you can't convince a little girl otherwise.
She's all about the fairness.
Yeah, all about that fairness. and just growing into this very independent little person. Like, I think I have a moment of shock every day. You know, like the other day when we were at a restaurant and I was talking about how we needed like to-go boxes before we were getting ready to leave. And I looked at her and I was like, would you go up there and ask for a to-go box? And she was like, yeah. I was not expecting the answer.
No.
I was not expecting her to say
and she
yes.
did. She marched her happy little ass right up to the register.
And I followed her, obviously.
I need a box.
Yeah. She's like, can I get a box? And then the server was like, oh, how many do you need? She was like, 2. Very much like it's giving mini-me.
Yeah,
it's,
woo! For real.
Gotta prep myself for that emotionally and intellectually.
Yeah. But yeah, that's how we're showing up. And we're excited for you guys to listen to this episode. I think that we all can relate to not being able to show up at work in the way that we want to, fearing how people are going to perceive us, and experiencing burnout. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Let's get into it. We didn't even say who it was. We are thrilled beyond. Do you see why the extra shot makes sense now? We are thrilled and beyond honored to have Miss Kelley Bonner of Black Girl Burnout Podcast join us today. And as always, I've said it once, 100 times, and I'll say it again. We are so, so grateful when anyone says yes to us, especially when it's guests that have done so many incredible things in their professional career, in their personal career, and just want to share their nuggets of wisdom with us, with you guys, the feelers. And yes, that is all. So, and yes. Who put the fork in the garbage disposal? Ding, 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 ding. I'll show it to you later.
Oh.
And that's it. Enjoy. Kelley Bonner is the host of Black Girl Burnout Podcast, founder of Burn Bright Consulting, and a licensed therapist with over 15 years of experience helping people and organizations transform, evolve, and heal burnout. She believes Black women have been systemically taught that their legacy is struggle, while their legacy is actually one of joy and accomplishment. Kelley has worked with several federal and international organizations to create safer environments and strategies for violence prevention, including the Biden administration, U.S. military, Library of Congress, National Academy of Sciences, the United Nations, and NATO. So, as you could tell, we are very honored and very thrilled to have Kelley on the podcast.
So excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, when we were ideating our podcast and landed on the fact that we wanted to have BIPOC women on the podcast talking about mental health and wellness and just the different areas that encompasses, I was like, ooh, I want to have Kelley on the podcast. So I was so excited to add you to the list. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on, because we're always just so thrilled when somebody says yes.
This is a privilege for me too. I'm very excited. I've researched and looked at what you all are doing, and I'm always happy to uplift any women of color doing this work.
Right. Yeah, yes. We are too, especially now being on this side of it. We're like, ooh, this is a lot of work. And so I'm so appreciative now of other creators, because I'm like, oh, I know what you're having to put into this.
I know what you're going through, girl.
Yeah,
I was upstairs getting ready and just listening to your episode several days ago about access, which is something that we talk about so much, because you were talking about how can I twist things and perfect things and make things to exactly what they were supposed to be. And that can just be this crippling anxiety until you really realize, yes, we are going to have the haves and the have-nots because of very specific reasons. So we really resonate with that. I mean, outside of the green velvet couch, we have plenty of conversations about what it means to have something in the moment or not have something in the moment. So it was great. I loved listening, and we'll just get right into it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So how we kind of start out all of our episodes is with our What's in Your Cup segment. So you can share what you're drinking today, and then also just how you're showing up.
Yeah. So I'm double fisting it today in the
Love
camera.
it.
So
Love
I
it.
have in this one, I have just some like fizzy water. I love fizzy water. I'm
Ooh.
obsessed with this.
Yeah.
And in this one, which is my mug that says she believed she could, so she did.
Yeah.
I love.
I have mint tea, and I have a little like cup warmer because this is my office. So that is what I'm
Oh,
drinking.
Love that.
Oh yeah, you got to get one of those. I'll send you an Amazon link. It's so cheap.
Yeah.
It's like you just put the little cup on there, and it keeps it warm all day long. Because I'm one of those people like gets busy and have to
Right.
reheat up my tea 55 times.
Yes.
Right.
So that's what I'm drinking. And then as far as how am I showing up today? I am showing up pretty joyful, actually. I love doing this kind of work. So I had a very energizing call right before I came to speak to y'all. And I just keep talking about the things that I love. And when I'm talking about the things that I love, I'm in my happy place.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. We've had a conversation about that yesterday too, of like reinviting the joy and the fun and even just the silly goofiness that we felt when we were first like starting the podcast. I'm sure you know, having your podcast for so many years is you get inundated with the routine of it. And it's like, you know what? Let's just sit back and just invite more fun and joy back.
Yes. I've definitely been on that. It's a roller coaster because it's people don't realize, spoiler alert, podcasting is work. It's a job.
Yeah.
It
And
is.
some days you love your job, and some days you're like, this is hard. And I
Right.
may not have the energy. So, always going back to what brings you excitement, like why you're doing it, that's the way to go every single time.
The most surprising thing about that to me is how often we have to do it, because we're on a weekly basis at this point. And so when you're having to add that onto the list of existing things that you already have on your plate, it can feel like this extra amount of work that maybe sometimes you don't have the luxury for. But reframing that mindset and taking it back to, why did I start this in the first place? What makes this fun for us? That helps us kind of shift it a little bit. So, speaking to that, it does have a lot to do with living a soft life, which you speak about a lot. So, we wanted to ask you, how can we, or how do we meet our careers with confidence while juggling the pressures and expectations that we face as Black and brown women?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And the way I would say, first thing is I want to say when we say soft life, we have to I really am on a mission to redefine that, because I think what's happened in this space is soft life became luxury, right? It became like, you see these videos of people who seem to have all the time in the world, all the money in the world. They have the $500 bottle of perfume. They have the most expensive bouquet. They are in their Lexus driving down the street. And I'm not saying that can't be a soft life. I aspire to do that video one day, but I also want people to know that soft living is it's incremental steps. It is, like you said, you have to return to joy and return to why you do the things you do over and over and over again. And the way that's possible is by creating soft moments. So I have like my soft Sunday, right? Soft Sunday evenings. I have soft Saturday mornings. And what that looks like is just me laying in bed on Saturday. Like I try not to get out of bed unless I want something I want to get before a certain time. And that might mean just bring a book in bed with me and staying there, right? It might be just staring. I have a very beautiful picture. I love art, as you can see behind me. For those who are watching this visually, I have Billie Holiday behind me. I have another beautiful picture in my bedroom, and I like to look at that in the morning and just ground into that. So this ties into your question, which is like, how do you create that with all these other demands? You make it small. So you make your soft life what is the smallest thing you can do in your life that creates that? Maybe it's just wearing your favorite clothing, right? To work. Maybe it's being able to have a touch point. So like this jewelry has meaning to me, right? It was given to me by a family member. So it might just be grounding into that with gratitude and remembering that moment. It might be having a colleague that makes you laugh. We all have colleagues for different things. And we've got the colleague that we know that will cheer us up no matter what's going on. It's about thinking about soft life is soft moments. And I say this, like the way you build a soft life is you have soft moments, you have soft mornings that builds to soft days, that builds to soft months, that gives you that life, right? So it's starting small and not confusing that or combining that with the demands of your life, right? It's not, I have to meet the demands of my job or have this soft existence. It's like, no, I already have a demanding life and a demanding job. What's something I can do in 5 minutes or less that's going to bring some softness into this moment?
Right. And even using little things as a reminder throughout your day when we're having to do these demanding obligations, like you said with your necklace, it's like that can be a reminder throughout the day. And setting that time has been beneficial to me to just have a 5-minute mental break or a little meditation in the middle of the day. And so I love how you outline that is it can be different for everybody, but really starting really small. Because I think it can be so overwhelming to see these things on social media. And it's like, if that's someone's soft life, that's amazing for them. Sometimes I think it dabbles a little bit into consumerism. And so I think we have this idea that we want to attain that isn't necessarily about setting that soft moment. It's more about achieving more, which then puts you more into that cycle that can lead you to the burnout.
Yeah, it's the hustle culture piece of it, right? It's like you get soft life is like a product of basically killing yourself to achieve a certain level of financial success. And soft living has nothing to do with money. And that's the part that I want people to get away from having that. And it should be something you could do for free that you already have existing that's 5 minutes or less. And it's a bunch of things. It's like you said, I have a morning routine. I have an app I use. It gives me 2-minute coaching, 2 minutes. It's never more than 2 minutes. And I make sure I start my day with that coaching because it's positive and it makes me think of something good for the day. I have a planner that I use. I just put stickers all over that thing. I have a pen I love, right? This is the kind of thing that we overlook that is bringing that soft life into reality, right? It's like having a day. I have a playlist. When I used to commute to work, I work from home now. When I used to commute, I have a playlist and I still play it now. That's like, I'm going to be jamming out, screaming, singing at the top of my lungs, whatever my song is to get me to disconnect from the work day to my life. Or just now, like at the end of the day, I'm feeling good. I'll put that playlist on now. It doesn't have to be complicated or something you have to go spend extra time or money to create.
Right. Yeah. That reminds me of, I think, the feeling when I was commuting, but on public transportation. So it's like a little different because you mostly have to pay attention to where you are, make sure you're not getting on the wrong bus or the wrong train or what have you. But I still to this day have an Audible subscription, but I listened to so many books. I read a lot of books on the bus, and that was my soft life because at the time I was living in LA. And so my soft life was not driving in LA. Taking the bus and taking the train, those were like my favorite moments to myself because it was typically before I was going to meet a long day or after I already had one. And so it was really just a settling moment and I got to just check all the way out, which is great. So I think those little reminders can be brought back in because you used to do them before. So just they can resurface at any time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Which kind of feeds into, I mean, when we're not setting ourselves up with these things, it can lead to that cycle of burnout, which brings me to my next question. So oftentimes I think a lot of people can relate to this, but I find myself approaching that feeling of burnout when I sit down at my desk and I'm like, I feel like I have so many things to do. I don't know where to start. And then I end up just like staring at my screen or picking my phone back up and scrolling. Then next thing I know, it's 3 p.m., 4 p.m. I'm like, oh, I feel like I haven't gotten anything done today because I was just so anxious and burned out trying to decide, making that decision fatigue. What are preventative measures we can make to avoid reaching that tipping point?
Yeah, so I think about this kind of on like 2 to 3 layers. So I'm going to try to make this as brief and as easy as possible, and filled with something that's actionable. So first things first, it becomes there's like simple time management stuff, right? And I talk about and teach time management from the perspective of what you value. So what I do is I bring my values to my calendar. And so on Monday, I know there's going to be a million things I have to do, but I get really clear on what is actually most important to me. And outside of like necessarily work, we're just talking about what's most important to me. Am I being creative? Am I collaborating? I love to collaborate with people, whatever that is. And I center that. And when I center that into that, I start looking at my calendar. One, this also goes to soft life because it brings joy back in. It's like, what are the moments in my week where I get to collaborate, where I get to be creative, right? And that kind of brings your anxiety level down because you got a million things to do, but you also know that you have this great meeting with this coworker that you love. And you're like, okay, I can get to Thursday because I at least have this thing going, right? So now that I know that Thursday is important to me and this is a meeting with a coworker and we brainstorm and we have such a good time, now I need to make sure I get there and I get there without having to cancel or without being miserable. And so that is like step one. And so step two then becomes I teach people how to prioritize their checklist for impact. So I tell people, if you got a list of 10 things, what is the thing that's going to have the most impact? So if the most important, joyful moment for you is getting to see that coworker on Thursday and do that fun thing, it's like, what do I need to get off the plate? What's one thing I could do today of this list that will bring me one step closer, that'll help me with all the other things, right? So it's like, okay, I don't really want to do this deep work task or this thing I've been avoiding, but I do know if I do it, it'll bring me closer to getting to hang out with my coworker and doing the thing that I value. And so I will then put that number one. Like, I know it's the thing I don't want to do, but it's the thing I know will make the most impact. So looking at impact versus importance, because we all if you work in any kind of corporate environment, what people think is important is nonsense. Like, it's just not impactful. It's like, answer my Slack message. Okay, that's what you think is important, but that's not actually going to move the needle or make a difference in like the project we've got to work on, right? And so there's a lot of fake urgency. And so it's like, what is actually most impactful? Like, what will actually change the rest of this list and make it easier to do? That's where you start. The third thing, stay with me, folks. The third thing that I would say is if you are a procrastinator, so that we talk about, it might be the thing that's most impactful is the thing. Me too, double hands. Me too. I also procrastinate. And the thing that might be the most impactful is the one thing you don't want to do. You're like, I've been stalling on this. I tell folks procrastination is not laziness, and it falls into 3 buckets. Like, you're procrastinating for 3 reasons, and you need to ask yourself why. So am I procrastinating because it's something I'm just not comfortable with? I'm a perfectionist. It's like out of my wheelhouse. It's new. And so I'm struggling. Am I procrastinating because I just hate the task? Like, I just hate it or I get bored with it, right? Am I procrastinating because I don't know where to start? Like, there's 50 things. I don't know what number 1 is, right? So you ask yourself the question, it's multiple choice. It's usually one of those things, right?
Yeah.
What are the things? And if it's something that you're overwhelmed by, go back to what has the most impact. If it's something that you hate, is it something you can delegate to someone? Is it someone you can switch tasks with? Like, I actually hate this, but you don't. So I'll take something off your plate and you do this, and then look at us, we're both happy, right? If it's something that's not in your wheelhouse, then think about maybe getting better direction from the person who gave it to you. Sometimes it's good to just go to our managers or our supervisors or our collaborators and just, it's the way you word it. These all seem important. I'm working on these tasks, but what would you want me to work first on in a perfect world, right? Make your management do their gig, but without it feeling threatening or feeling like I don't want to do the work, all the coded things that we deal with as women of color, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I would do that. It's like, it's conquering procrastination, making a list and looking for impact, and then anchoring your time into your values. Like, what is the thing that's going to bring you the most joy?
Right. Oh, I should have brought my notebook. Good thing I can listen back. I'm so happy to listen back. That is so funny. I work with middle schoolers and I have to teach them that skill, because talk about the group of procrastinators that are top tier. They know how to do it the best, right? Those 11 to 13-year-olds, if anyone needs to learn how to procrastinate, it's from them. And so, we'll print out reports. Everything's online, right? But we'll print out a report of missing assignments. And I told a student the other day, I'm like, take inventory, look at what you've got going on, figure out what's worth the most points, and tackle that first, because that's going to impact your grade the most. And so it's funny because I'm saying this to somebody, yet I get home, I sit in front of my computer, I've got 2 classes, I've got a child, and I've got the podcast. And I'm like, whatever.
Time to turn on TV.
Yeah,
what can I watch?
Look, Summer I Turned Pretty for the 1,000th time.
Yes. Absolutely. Team Jeremiah. Team Jeremiah.
Yes.
Oh, look at us.
You.
Jellyfish.
Healed people. I don't want to alienate the audience, but healed people know the answer is Team Jeremiah.
All day.
Yes, I am a Jeremiah apologist. I say this all the time. I'm like, Jeremiah is the guy in high school that we all deserved to date, but didn't
Yes.
because we were going after the Connies.
The Connies.
The Connies. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there's people, I don't know it's fair to say high school because I feel like that,
True.
I don't want to tell all my business, but I think I was way past high school still dating a guy that resembled Connie.
Oh,
So
very much.
Yes, very much into my 20s too.
Yes,
so I think that's why it's
very
it's such a relatable story because it's like I'm 32 and I'm still dealing with some of the things that Belly is.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, it's human behavior. It does not have an age cap on it.
It does not.
You will be having the Connies. You will have the Connies.
You will.
I love that.
And you need to say goodbye to them.
Yes.
You need to set the boundary.
Leave him in Cousins.
Yes.
Leave him in Cousins. He wants to stay. Let him stay.
Let him stay.
Okay, so this was several years back, but I have found myself in situations where I have prolonged my employment somewhere or prolonged staying in an environment that wasn't necessarily meant for me, even when I've outgrown it or other reasons. So one of the things you talk about a lot, which we want to get more insight on, is how do you quit with ease?
Yes. And I say this as someone who quit spectacularly. Like I did not quit with elegance or ease. I was like, I will never speak to you again. I hope all the bad things you deserve come to you and come to you in 2 weeks. I did not quit well one of my jobs. And I would say, to my credit, there was a lot of reasons why I did not quit with grace. But in hindsight, it would have been nice to just have exited a lot earlier. So step one, don't wait till you just can't take it anymore and are going to act in a way that you're maybe not proud of, or even if you are proud of. I'm low-key still a little petty, so I'm still kind of proud of that moment, but I would not recommend somebody else did it. So I tell folks, don't get to that level. And if you're getting to the place where you're actively angry and really engaging in some just toxic gossip and just going in on people, it's time. You've probably gone beyond the time, but it's definitely time. But for those of us who are heading that way, and I've been in jobs where I've left much better than I did that job, and I left with a little bit of grace intact and not a story, I just tell folks there is the way to gently exit a job, right? And it starts first by being really clear about where you want to go. Because I think what happens is so many times if you're in the human services field, like education, I'm in mental health, you just quit and you don't even think about it. You just jump into the next job, any job but the one I'm in. And then spoiler alert, the next job kind of feels like the one you left, right?
Yeah.
So start by imagining, one of the things I ask myself is, what do I need to thrive in a job? And I started making that my criteria when I started finding new jobs. So for me, it was creativity. I needed to be excited about the work I did. I needed to feel I could be collaborative with folks. And so that helped me guide when I started looking for jobs, what jobs naturally aligned with what would actually make me happy. So that was one of the things I did. The second thing I would say for quitting with ease and to do it with ease is it's time to tap into your network and to tap into mentorship and getting kind of guidance from people. Are there people having the jobs you wish you could have, right? Who's having your dream job? You might just ask them. More times than not, people are willing to tell you how did you get there or what's available in the network. And if they're discreet, obviously, maybe don't tell them you're quitting, but just saying, I really want to move up, or one day I want to move into this field. How would you suggest I get there? So start shoring up your network, start having conversations with people and engaging, because in this job economy, it's a lot about who you know, regardless. And it's better to ask people, and they're going to be the ones that are going to give you a reference when it's time. They're going to be the ones that are going to know a job opportunity that's coming up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like this is so timely on a personal note.
But it's sparking a lot of different things.
Yeah.
I'm going off script a little bit. But I think that a lot of Black and brown women can experience, especially in corporate settings, you're going into a workplace and there's already these biases placed against us. We already feel like we have to overachieve and show up in a certain way. And I think that sometimes we have to do this little dance of well, how much of myself can I show?
Yes.
How assertive can I be without being labeled as bossy? Or how much can I stick up for myself without being angry or unreasonable. And I think I'm just wanting to ask, how do we navigate those situations when we enter a new workplace and set ourselves up so that we're not getting to that place of like, ooh, now I need to exit because I feel like I've exhausted all of my resources. It's a toxic work environment. How do we really be true to ourselves and who we are and protect ourselves?
That's a great question. And I have a somewhat of a controversial take. I mean, I don't particularly believe in bringing your whole self to work. And I want to explain to you why I say that. First of all, I would say one, work is not safe enough for my whole self. And two, y'all don't deserve it. My whole self is reserved for the people in my life that I love dearly, that I feel safe with. I don't think, honestly, I think that's white folks who started this whole self because they get to bring their whole self and they get to have a meltdown and they get to have and everyone's like, oh, that's just how that person is. Oh, well, that's
right.
Jake.
Jim.
That's just Chad. That's how Chad does. That's how Chad be like, right?
Yeah.
So, but that is not going to apply. Although I have a name that's not typically, it's not Black, but it's like, that's not going to apply to Kelley, right? Not Black Kelley, certainly. Like, I don't just get to have a bad day and show out. Well, that's just a different side of my personality. So I contract to bring my best work self. I'm bringing my best self to work. I'm not bringing my whole self because y'all don't deserve that, right? That's for the people I love. And that's a gift. The whole self is a gift. And people will be annoyed by this because everyone's been in a situation where they're like, their colleagues are trying to get them to bring their whole self, AKA drink, tell us about a time. And you're like, nah, that's good. I'm not going to share that, but thank you.
Right.
But it's my best self. So that's what you paid me for. That's what you're going to get. So that's one. And the second piece to that is, which I think is fair, is I really practice boundaries and I really looked for allies. And this is the part that I think people struggle with when I talk about leveraging your access, like you talked about this, is I have an unofficial holiday that I call Ask a White Man for Money. And really what that holiday means is like, it's not necessarily, sometimes it legit is asking a white man for money, meaning like hire me for my services. But sometimes Ask a White Man for Money is about allyship in practice. It's about finding and connecting with people who have access and the doors open and saying, how can you help me? Or how is there someone in the network you can recommend? Do you have a recommendation for me? And so I say that to the larger point of network. Informally network with people of color because they will protect you and they'll be a soft place to land. Like, make sure you have someone you can vent with. And also the part we don't talk enough about is network with allies. And I understand that that's difficult. Trust me. But there are people who are willing to help. They want to overcorrect sometimes. They want to go above and beyond to help. And it's about seeking out those folks. Don't be afraid if someone says interest. If you have a good conversation with someone, what we don't do is we never follow up because we just feel like, well, that's, we'll pick on Chad. That's Chad. And Chad's not going to help me or do anything. Chad just might. If Chad's talking to you, it doesn't hurt anything to be like, can I talk to you for 15 minutes and pick your brain? People love to feel like they know something and they can impart wisdom, right? Let Chad give you some wisdom. And in exchange for that, Chad will be the person that's like, actually, I think Kelley has a point they want to bring up. Or I think Kelley might be good in this situation, and talk good about you in rooms that you're not, which lowers the temperature on having to be like combative or that perception that you're combative. Third point is let them just think it. I mean, I also release the need to be visible and loved at my job. And in releasing that, I still had people that didn't like me and said, you can do a poll. There are people say I was aggressive, all the things you could think of. But that was this many people. And so many more people once I released it, and I just got to do better work because I stopped caring about how you would receive the work I did and just start caring about doing the good work. And one thing they cannot deny, they can say I'm aggressive. They could say, I'm all the things. Kelley, don't lift up people, whatever it is, but they can never say I wasn't good because I was good at what I did.
Yeah. It's like we do our jobs.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. That's a great point is let's just release the fear, the expectation, the what if they look at me this way? Because it's like then while it's valid and while we feel that way for a reason, it's allowing us to drop the baggage and start over fresh. I think that in a past workplace, I learned your coworkers are not your friend.
No.
Your friends, and they don't need to be. And I can be friendly at work, and I can be a joy to be around and add value to your life in other ways. I'm genuinely caring and interested in people. It's not that I just don't care about you,
Right.
but you're not my friend. But I love hearing that, because it's like, you can be my ally.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and you don't need all of me. Like I don't need friends at work. I mean, and you might make friends at work. I want to be clear. Like I've made some friends that I talk to decades later, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't have to be, and we need to redefine. And the truth of the matter is, I hope we get to a different place in the world, but the truth is they gonna say that about you. Whether I have been Polly Pocket Sunshine, everything possible. I have spoken like a Valley girl. I have been the most stereotypical blackest version of myself. And guess what? The same amount of people who said I was bossy, aggressive, it did not. The minute Polly Pocket Sunshine said, okay, so we need to actually talk about making an adjustment here, you're being aggressive. You're too assertive. So it's going to happen. Let's just, and let's release to be attached to that. Like, it's not about me. It's the systems that people are playing into because they feel insecure.
Right.
Oh, completely.
So, yeah, it's so good to bring into, I'm not in a corporate environment, but I am in the human services within education. And so you do have so much politics that are involved with public school and the district and what's the budget for this and what's the budget for that. We don't have the money for this. We don't have the money for that. And so I was nominated to be on a group. It just was a scheduling conflict, so I couldn't do it. But a part of me was like, oh no, even if I did do it or if I could do it, I would be the loud one. I would be the one who always has something to say, because I absolutely would. I would be in that library. Excuse me, I have a question. Or what about this? Or can we do that? Or can we do that? It's like I would be the one making the meeting go long. That would be me. And so that was a fear that I was like, even if I had the availability within my schedule to do it, would I? Or am I too fearful of the perception of being that outspoken brown girl who always has something to say about something? But if I just leave that behind and understand that I was hired to do a job there, especially if I was nominated to be on something, then yeah, the purpose exists for a reason, and I'm in that space for a reason. So exactly, let them think that I'm the loud brown girl, because I am.
You are, and that's okay. And if you're not, they're gonna think it anyways. Like, you have one comment, you raise your hand one time and say, well, what about this?
Yes.
You always have an opinion. So my litmus test is, how am I going to feel? Do I feel good, and do I feel like I contributed? So if that group, you not being there left something on the table, then you need to be there. But we've also been in groups where like, y'all just want me here just to say you invited a brown face and you're not actually doing anything. And then the answer is no. The answer is, I'm not going to waste my energy, because we're all about joy here. And I'm not going to waste my joy participating in this nonsense. Like, this is a show. You just need to cast a character. You don't need you don't actually want to do good work.
Yeah. It's like this, there was this push and this scurry after, and even before too, but I feel like especially in 2020 to have the DEI.
Yep.
And have the butts in seats. And I even had brought that to somebody that I trusted at a job. And I'm like, I'm filling a butt in a seat, and I know that. And so you hired me to be the diversity hire, but then you're not allowing me to bring any diversity.
Right. Yes. And I'm reclaiming my time. I mean, that was toward the end of my journey at a job. I would just be like, reclaiming my time from this meeting, decline. Then sometimes I would show and leave. Now, I don't advise you do that. I was at the end of my career, and I already had a new job lined up. But I was like, I feel like you all have got this, and I'm going to just take my leave. Click. So-and-so can pass me the notes. Right. And that would be it, because it's knowing the difference, right? Different. Like for you, you're saying like it made sense that you were able to, like, you need to be there because you were the voice that they needed. But at the same time, there's other times you go to the meetings, you're like, I'm just a butt in the seat. I'm not going. Or I'm going to excuse myself.
Mm-hmm. Right. You guys are not even going to listen to anything that I have to contribute anyway. So it's like, why am I even wasting my energy?
Right.
Yes.
I could be so many other places right now that is not here.
Right.
Exactly.
The meme of Viola Davis.
Yes.
Grabbing
that's my
her
favorite.
purse.
That's my favorite GIF. It's like her grabbing her bag. You don't know how many times I've sent that to people in work. At work. I'd be like, why am I here? Time to click. I'm sorry. I'm having
yeah.
issues. I click.
Right.
Especially with virtual. I was like, oh, the internet
yes.
is bad. And I would just click out.
So good.
Goodbye.
Yeah, I feel
Goodbye.
like if anyone had access to one of my Microsoft Teams chats with one of my colleagues at some point, I would have been kicked out of there so quick.
Yes, me too.
We all have those.
I mean, I got to the point where I had code names for people. Like, it was
me too.
bad.
Oh yeah, same.
It
You
was
have to have a
bad.
code name. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
You need to start having a code name immediately. Don't ever
Yeah.
use your colleagues' full names. I had so many code names for people. I had like one was
Right.
fragility. I had one named relevance because all they wanted to do was be relevant, so they would speak. I had scientists, not scientists, like somebody who was claimed to be so brilliant and had none of the degrees or experience to match it. Like,
Incredible.
I had a name for everybody.
Yeah, I had one that was a literature major because he never failed to bring it up. Well, I was a literature major, right? And I'm like, I absolutely know that. Yeah, because you told me yesterday.
Yes, I had a white man who quoted, I should not make this so obvious, but they're not listening. I called one person Swahili proverb because at one time he interrupted a leadership meeting to talk about a Swahili proverb as a white man and then proceeded to say it and just pause for all of us to absorb it. It was wild. So yes, code names are necessary.
Oh my gosh.
It's like they want to clap on the back. It's
they do.
Yes.
That was the pause.
Oh my gosh.
Was like,
wow.
say I'm amazing, right, y'all?
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah. I did one thing. It's like they read one book and they're like, oh my gosh, please give me a standing ovation.
Right.
I'm like, well,
you've seen that I've been on my Googles.
Exactly. I know things.
Yeah.
I know things. And you just stare at them and wait for it to be over. That's
right.
Okay.
I've even had code songs. So me and my past work bestie, who is also brown, we were really some of the only ones on the team. We would have code songs. So if I started singing, she's a runner, she's a track star, that means if this lady does not leave me alone, I'm gonna quit today.
That's hilarious. I love that. I need to think about if I did that and what I use. Like, that is brilliant.
Oh my gosh, that could be part of your soft life routine. It's like,
Yes.
what matches this person? That sounds like a fun project.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And to me, that's joy.
Yes,
that
it is.
Joy.
Absolutely.
That is joy.
Yeah. If I'm gonna have to be here, I'm gonna make it fun.
Exactly. For myself.
That's correct.
So just to close out, when we were doing research, we had a lot of admiration for in all of the spaces that you have been able to be in and use your voice in. If you have any nuggets of advice for any of our listeners who feel like I'm not quite there yet, but I want to be, and I want to be able to be invited to the tables, what would you say to those people?
So first, I want to ask something that's even a step further back. Why?
Yeah.
Why do you want to be invited to the table?
Mm-hmm.
Is it for impact, or is it because people have made you feel small and you feel like being at the table will get you there? Because I've been at the table. I mean, it's so, again, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I work for myself now. So I've been at the table, and when I got there, I realized, oh, this isn't actually where I want to be. What I actually wanted by being at the table was to make an impact. I wanted to be able to push whatever I'm passionate about forward, right? And being at the table may not actually be the way to do that best. Because sometimes when you get to the table, I'll never forget, Michelle Obama wrote one thing that stuck in my head when I read one of her books was that she said, I got to the top and I realized people are not that smart at the top. Like, she's like, I'm the smartest person in the room here. And it was very underwhelming for her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I tell people, what actually is the reason why you want to be at the top? Is it income? Like, and there's no shame in saying, because I need to make a bigger check. I have goals. But whatever that is, it may not actually be being in the room. It might be like diversifying your skills and being like, you know what? I'm actually a great community organizer. Maybe I need to do that on the side as a side hustle till I can do it full time, which is what I did. I did side hustling until I could do it as a full-time job. And I realized that actually I didn't want to be in the room. I don't want to be a manager. I don't want to be in charge of folks. I just want to do really good work and make an impact. And so I created a business and a table for myself and other women of color and women that I work with to be able to execute that, right? And maybe it's like, I just want to have a voice. Well, I started a podcast. I have a voice. I speak to thousands of people, right? It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be at the table, quote unquote, meaning like in the room with folks, because oftentimes those folks, you might be underwhelmed. But let's say getting to the table is what you want to do. Allyship, mentorship. who it is about access. I really
Yeah.
come back to that. That has been key in my career. I am extremely skilled, and I believe everybody that's probably listening to this is extremely skilled too. And yet that's not enough, right? What got me to the table, sitting in the room, listening to Swahili proverbs was the fact that I knew people and they wanted to help me out and they saw my value and they were like, I'm going to open the doors for you because you deserve more pay. You deserve a better position. You're doing great things. That would never have happened without those key allies and mentors to bolster me up. So start having conversations today with people who you admire, who has skill sets that you're missing. Start having those combos.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point, that it doesn't always have to be fulfillment at the job. Because like you said, creating a side hustle, creating a podcast, joining an organization, and even if you do want it to be your job, I think that we are creating those spaces so that we don't have to feel othered in the corporate worlds.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I just have a lot of memories flooding through because the people sometimes, I was going to say this earlier and forgot, but it does require a lot of discernment to figure out who is an ally and who is not. And sometimes when you think somebody will be, like, you're about 99% sure, and they act that way and they present themselves that way, and then it gets down to the nitty gritties of it all and you start to ask for what you deserve, they end up showing their face completely.
And I think the way to answer that is allyship is an action. So I was really conscious about who my allies were. And one of my key allies, as an example, people would come to me and say, have you spoken to this person? Jeff is such a great person. Like, he's always helping people. And there was like a line of Black women that were like, oh, Jeff's my favorite. Jeff is my favorite. Jeff helped me. He will like sit down with tea with you. His actions said he was an ally, not his words. And oftentimes we have people who may be over, like, you get suspicious and they burn you, right? Because they're like, oh, I can't wait to meet with you. But what are their actions aligning? If somebody says that I really want to help advocate for folks and put them on, well, who have they put on? Who works for them? Who works in their department? Who have they elevated or interviewed? Like, it was an action. Like, my allies showed up. I need to hire people. They're like, I will absolutely be on your hiring committee. I will take you to lunch and help you integrate. It was their actions that made them allies, not their words. And that is the key part, because people will say a lot, but then you need to see what they do. And 9 out of 10 times, what they say does not match what they do. And if it does match, now you know that's my ally.
Right. It's like, keep your eyes open and your ears closed.
Yes.
Because it was a lot of chatter. It was a lot of chatter. And then at the end of the day, I've got an infant doing 2.5 people's jobs, and you can't find money in the budget to give me the raise that I deserve because you don't make that much. I was like, that has nothing to do with me. If you need to ask for more money, you should probably do that. You know?
Yes.
And so at the end of the day, it just ended up being someone who you thought was an ally only propelling themselves further and not lifting anyone up. So it was a huge learning lesson for me. And I've been a lot more about my P's and Q's when I enter a new workspace and a new work environment, because I am the person to definitely bring my whole self everywhere, but been burned so many times by doing that.
Best self.
Yes.
It's not, and whole self is still best self. Like, I want to be clear, but they don't need to have access. What makes you incredible, you can just say for people who deserve it.
Right.
It just could be Danie and Crystina. That's who gets the whole
literally
self, right? Don't bring that out to the world necessarily. And like you said, observe people. It's not what they say, it's what they do. And a lot of people say allyship and it's a buzzword. It doesn't mean anything. And so it's what they do.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Well, awesome. I think that brings us to the end of our questions. But thank you so much, Kelley. And can you go ahead and tell our audience where they can find you?
Yes, podcast Black Girl Burnout. We're across all platforms. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok. We're getting there. TikTok as well. It's still Black Girl Burnout. Check out the podcast. It airs 3 times a week. It's short little clips to get you through your day. And women of all kinds are welcome. It's called Black Girl Burnout, but it's open to everybody. The lessons are for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely go check out her podcast. I have gleaned some amazing nuggets and I'm so grateful for that space. So thank you for doing what you do. And thank you so much for being on our podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Thank you.
Well, what did you all think? Is she not the most amazing Kelley that you've ever met in your life? She is for me.
She's right up there.
She's right up there.
Her
Top
and
of
Miss
my
Kelley
list.
Rowland.
Top of the Kelley list.
To the top of the Kelley list for you.
To the top of the Kelley list for you. What an incredible conversation. And what a great example of what it means to do things in certain ways. Like she said, certain things work for certain people. She would not necessarily recommend to quit the way that she quit in certain situations. But at the end of the day, when you're in a toxic work environment, when you've been pushed around, when you've been unheard, unseen, all the things, right?
Overworked and underwhelmed. Yep.
Overworked, underwhelmed, and underpaid. Honestly, yeah, there's been plenty of work environments where I've been underwhelmed. I thought it was one thing and I got there and it was not.
Yeah.
So certainly a lot of takeaways from this episode.
Yeah.
And I'm a processor, so I can't think of my favorite thing right this moment, but do you have a favorite moment?
All of it.
Yeah.
My favorite moment was like her coming on the podcast in general.
Yeah, that's true.
But I feel like there was a couple things where I was like, ooh, light bulb.
Yeah.
I think the not bringing your whole self to work.
Yeah,
was like
that was a moment. I said, are you talking to me?
Miss bears her soul to every
Oh my
stranger
God.
she
Literally,
meets.
I just got back from work having been my whole self, always bringing my whole self everywhere. And I used to be like, that's like a prideful thing for me. I really love being, but that's the point. It's like I could still be my authentic self and my best self somewhere without bringing every single piece of me.
Yeah.
And I just did that the other day where it's like, I shared some information about myself that probably just should have gotten kept to me, because at the end of the day, I really don't know these people. I don't even know you. But yeah, that was a light bulb moment for me as well.
Yeah.
Because, yep.
And I think that we're brought back to a lot of the same themes from other guests. So how she said to start small.
Yeah.
I'm like, how many times have we talked about that?
I know. Sounds like a life lesson.
Yes, the lessons are lessening. Mm-hmm. So I want to hear your guys' work stories, your work quitting stories. I want to hear about your code names. And even if you had code songs.
The code songs was new for me. I love it.
Yeah, I can't remember all of them. I've blocked a lot of that time period of my life out because it was just so traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
But we definitely had a lot of songs that we would sing back and forth to each other, and like we knew exactly what it meant.
Oh my God, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And someone just thinks you have like a song stuck in your head.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Mm-hmm. This bitch right here. Smartest bitch I know. Swear to God. I swear to God.
I swear to God. Swear to God.
Yeah. Do you have a story of quitting with ease? Do you have a story like Kelley where you did not? Let us know. And as always, follow us on Instagram at empathsanonpod. We are Empaths Anonymous on YouTube. At this point, the time of this this episode coming out, we may hit 100.
We may hit 100.
So I don't want to say a number because
we may have already.
I don't know. Yeah,
at this point.
Yeah, so we'll probably surpass that. So I'm not gonna say a number.
Yeah. We have been doing the research. So I'm so confident that our YouTube videos are going to perform because the amount of videos I've been watching and articles I've been reading is insane.
Yeah.
Not that I'm like so worried about the numbers. I think that's just part of growth. You have to.
Right.
Why do this if you're like I'm fine with only talking to 10 people. Like, no, that's not the point.
No, we're grateful for every single one of you. We're grateful for every single view that we get. And then the other day, I wanted to shout out, I'm forgetting the username and I do apologize, but someone did make it to the end of one of our episodes on YouTube and left an emoji and it was our first one ever. And we love you. Love, love, love.
We see it.
We see you.
Every single comment, no matter if you're just saying hi or leaving an emoji or whatever it is,
giving us a thumb. Yeah, we are appreciative of every single thing because showing up is something that we love to do and being here and speaking to you all and having those conversations. La-dee-da, la-la-la, whoop-dee-doo.
Whoop-dee-doody.
Sometimes I just got to get the words out.
Yeah.
I'm spaghettiing right now.
Yeah. But yeah,
Oh,
You did all of that. You said all that.
That's what I was going to do. Just a quick reminder, we still have the Google form up. If you are a BIPOC artist, we would love to feature your art. As you could tell, Audre Lorde is right here back on our wall where she's meant to be. However, she does love to share her spot. So please
Audrey
fill it
loves
out.
to share.
She
you
does.
could go here. You could go here. You could go here. You
Right.
could go to the tomatoes. The only thing that we're
Yeah.
really not going to move is the Frida and the Diana. But
Right.
the other things we can move things around.
Yes.
That's the whole point. This can grow and evolve and change.
100%.
So please fill it out. Or if you don't know, can't find the form, you can DM us. We'll send it to you.
I thought you were going to say or else.
Or else.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's it, y'all. We're going to close out this episode with a prayer and leave y'all on a positive note.
Spirit, grant me the serenity to bring my best self to work and leave my whole self at home.
The courage to quit with ease.
And the wisdom to read a Chad when he tries me.
And
so it is.
Bye. Adios.